What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Echo and the Bunnymen. And as always, big thank you to Amber for this material. And in that regard, I wanted to mention, this is the last song on the 1987 self-titled album. And after that, we're going to jump back to Porcupine 1983. I have that ready to go. And there's also Songs to Learn and Sing 1985, which I think is a compilation, not like a studio album. And I have that ready to go, but I noticed in the discography on Discogs that there's an album called Ocean Rain from '84, and I couldn't find that among the things that were shared. Now maybe it just wasn't shared, maybe that's not something that is available, and if that's the case, no worries, but I just wanted to make sure that I haven't overlooked something or I didn't find the right email. But as I said, I have Porcupine ready to go, we'll do that next. I have Songs to Learn and Sing 1985, but there seems to be an album, like a proper album between them, that I wasn't able to find. In any case, the last song on the 1987 self-titled album is All My Life, which is, of course, pretty straightforward. The idea of something, whether it's an experience or just a consciousness, an awareness, or some type of situation has existed, or at least characterizes the entire span of the life of the speaker. So obviously what that is could make the narrative or the context widely different depending on the specifics. So I'll just have to see what I can catch. This is Echo and the Bunnymen. The song is All My Life, and it's the last tune on their 1987 self-titled album.
Men or devils have claimed us, purity deserted. God's one miracle, lost in circles. All my life falls around, laughter and crying as my life turns round. You and I are side by side. Listen, tin soldiers playing our tune. All my life falls around, laughter and crying as my life turns round and round. Lost lovers, bittersweet the healing. The prayers prayed under covers, kneeling. God's one miracle moves in circles. All my life falls around, laughter and crying as my life turns round and round. All my life.
fascinating tune. So, sonically, it reminds me of something U2 would do, and maybe even right down to the vocals. It almost sounds like that kind of raspy, bluesy type of vocal delivery that Bono has done in a number of songs. And yet it also sounds a bit like some of the later big country stuff that I've been going through, which is to say like late 80s, early 90s. It certainly sounds less poppy than some of the other tunes on this album. Although, fair to say, this album hasn't been like, super commercial pop or anything, but it's had more of like a pop sound certainly than their earlier stuff, which had this raw, like post-punk mixed with like synth rock type of intensity. But yeah, this one felt different. It felt like reflective, and lyrically I think it is that, though I'm not quite sure what's happening lyrically. But yeah, it felt like a mellow blues rock type of ballad, I guess is the best way I can try to characterize it. And yes, lyrically it feels reflective, but he's talking about things that seem to be like across the spectrum, like laughter and crying. Of course, you can cry from laughter, and you can be in that situation where, like, if you don't laugh, you cry. There's some expressions and understandings where they're closer than they seem, but by and large, they are on opposite ends of the emotional spectrum. Laughing is like you're in a good mood, you're amused by something. Crying, you're feeling sad. Again, you can cry from inspiration or from joy, but more often, or more often when it's referenced, it's because you're sad or upset or depressed. So it sounds like all my life he's taking stock of everything that's happening or that has happened, and he seems to be talking about how his life has gone round and round. He makes reference to a circle, and thus like cycles, ebbs and flows, highs and lows, everything that's taken place. And seemingly, he makes reference in that one verse in particular when it, starts doing a military style like marching drum and talk about like soldiers on the hill with cannons and so on, that could be part of his life, one facet of it, or indeed part of like what human life is. Like we have times where things are relatively placid and tranquil, but then times of conflict and war and suffering. So it sounds like he's just taking this broad view of an entire horizon of someone's individual lifespan, but maybe humanity's collective lifespan, or at least modern life's totality. So yeah, I don't quite know how it all stitches together. Maybe it's functioning on multiple levels. Maybe he is referencing the good and the bad, all my life, everything in it, and suggesting that, he just goes around and he ends up in the same places, but with different experiences over the course of these little cycles. So either way, I felt the experience and the gamut of emotions in that sort of heavy but knowing type of vocal delivery that he had. So yeah, a really interesting tune, and one that had a different feel, a more serious feel, shall we say, than some of the other tracks on the album, and a very interesting album closer. So yeah, curious to hear what Amber and others have to say about it. As I said, we'll jump back to Porcupine next. We can worry about Ocean Rain later, but yes, Porcupine is the next stop on this larger Echo and the Bunnymen journey. Shout out to Ian and the rest of the band. Very much looking forward to the next album. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.